Welcome back to another episode of OATS Uncut, Orator Academy Talks Uncut, where our conversations are real, honest, unscripted, unfiltered, uncut. Communication is not just through words, it's not through our body language, it's in our conduct. It's the way we walk, the way we carry ourselves, and things that we do with our being. So today I have the pleasure of talking to a wonderful and inspiring young man who communicates in multiple ways, specifically saying he communicates through his words, through his actions, and through the instrument that he plays. Please allow me to welcome Ajay. Ajay, welcome to OATS Uncut. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. What about you, ma'am?
I am doing very well, thank you. You know, the first time I met you, and I was told that you play an instrument and you want to learn to be a better communicator because when you perform, you want to be able to talk to an audience.
Exactly, I do.
So tell me, how does a musician talk to the audience in your experience?
So in my experience of playing the instrument, so now for those of you who do not know which instrument I play a percussion instrument called the Mridangam. It's really famous in South India, specifically in the state of Tamil Nadu, in the district of Tanjavur. Now, whenever I'd be playing that specific instrument, of course, this does not apply to every single instrument in the music family, but in the instrument which I'd be playing, I'd be able to communicate not through words like how we do over here, but through the patterns or the rhythm which I could possibly compose. Each rhythm has a really important significance, or it does something to the audience or to the people who would play those rhythms or those compositions themselves. So, like for instance, each complex pattern or each easy pattern has some significance to it, but of course, each significance, it varies from pattern to pattern. So yeah.
So when did you first get into the instrument, and how do you think, actually, so two-part question. One, how did you get into it? And second, how do you think your instrument communicates, or what is the instrument saying to you or to the people you're performing for?
So, I had gained the passion to learn how to play the Mridangam. It was from a young age. Since when I used to be about 3 or 4 years old, I used to bang my fingers, tap my fingers across random surfaces in my apartment, such as a table or a chair, even my dad's office workspace too sometimes. And from there onwards, my parents were intrigued by the way I had been playing each pattern onto each surface. So they had made a really important, a life-changing decision to join me into the Mridangam class, right?
So the parents were very perceptive. They watched your actions as a toddler, and they came up with this decision that, hey, since you were so good with tapping your fingers on surfaces, you could use it on an instrument.
Exactly.
That is phenomenal.
They were connecting me to an expertise musician or a percussionist in South India. So, so based upon that, they were not so firm on their decision because they were a bit doubtful upon themselves too.
Of course.
Because of course, they were wondering, would Ajay be able to learn this properly or not, or whether would this be a failure or a success? But of course, 95% of their mind had explained to them both, okay, let us give this a go.
Let's explore this.
Let us.
How old are you right now?
Right now I'm 14.
14. So, a young teenager. And you've been playing Mridangam for how many years now?
For about 6 to 7 years.
Wow. So you were about 7 or 8.
Exactly.
When you started this. Wow, that's amazing. So your parents' perception and reading of your movements with your hand was pretty on point, accurate.
Exactly.
Where were you born?
I was born in the city of Hyderabad in the South Indian state of Telangana in India. So,
and you've been in the US for how long now?
For 5 to 6 years, because I had been living in India for 8 years of my life. After that, in 2019 precisely, I had moved to New Jersey. First, I had been living around Edison. Of course, you all maybe knowing that specific area. It's famous for its Indian grocery stores, Frog Fever, and other famous attractions.
Yes.
And then after that, I had moved to Plainsboro, New Jersey, closer to Princeton University, and yeah.
Okay, so now you've essentially lived half your life in India and half your life here. what is the difference that you feel in terms of life and interactions and communication with people back there and here?
Back there and here, life, it is almost pretty same, because even the USA, it has it has a diverse number of, cultures and other kinds of, people from different ethnicities, backgrounds, exactly.
Cultural melting pot, yeah.
Especially New Jersey has a lot of Indians, of course, it is famous for that specific ethnicity group. So even when traveling to the USA, sometimes I had many experiences where I did not even feel like I was in the USA. I felt like I was back in my home country trying to communicate with other locals, with, my peers or either my friends. Even though my Indian peers, even though they had the American accent, which, I'm developing currently, but still, like, because of the way, the information which they share, their experiences, even though their accent was like an American, but the experiences that they'd be sharing was like a proper Indian.
So did you ever feel that, so you made a comment, you said, I'm trying to develop the American accent. I remember the first time I spoke to you, you said you were working on picking up that accent. At the same time, you were trying to, the endeavor on your part when you came to me was that you wanted to understand people better when they spoke, and you wanted them to understand you when you spoke. So as far as that is concerned, it doesn't matter which country you are in. I think anywhere, even if you had just continued living in India, it's always a challenge to have people give you their time and attention and listen to you and understand everything that you're saying.
Exactly.
And the same thing here, it's maybe a little harder here, because not everybody speaks your language.
Yeah, I mean, even though, but because in India itself, I had a great fluency of English, because in India, I had been studying in an English medium school, not in a different language medium school. So because of that, I actually had that English fluency when traveling to the USA. Of course, because even you yourself and other people in this country have explained to me that it is much more important to maintain your cultural accent rather than trying to delve deeper or endeavor into the accent in the country that you're living in, because even that could basically spoil your background, like who you are, right? Your originality, to be more specific.
Yeah, you can be you. You can be yourself.
Exactly.
You don't need to change who you are, especially like you mentioned that this is a cultural melting pot. There are so many diverse cultures in this country, and especially in the state of New Jersey, that's the beauty of it. That is the fun part of it. You get to be you, and you get to learn about so many other different cultures. So when you think about acquiring an accent, it's with the intention of not just trying to lose who you are, but more with the intention of being a little more easy on people. So people can understand what you say to them because you're speaking the same style that they do.
Exactly.
Right? Right. So I get that point, and I think some people say to me that I still have an accent, but then when I question them about it, what do you mean I have an accent? They tell me it's a very polished accent. So I take it as a compliment. But again, my whole endeavor and each mindfulness is, I want people to understand what I'm saying, because if I have to speak multiple times for people to understand what I said, then I'm just wasting my time and breath, and they will lose patience and not want to listen to me anymore. So
exactly.
That is why it's important. You brought up also the fact that coming from India, you were already fluent in the language.
But still, even though I had been fluent in the language, but still, first, I mean, right now my accent, it is a bit more polished and modernized. But when traveling from India to the USA, my accent was more pure to the Indian accent. Trying to use, because right now, like for instance, when pronouncing words such as contact, like over here, it seems a bit more polished, right, in the way I'm pronouncing that specific term. But in India, I used to pronounce terms like in a way which was a bit more local rather than polished, modernized.
Because India is a land of multiple languages.
Polished, how are you, like that R.
The rolling of the R.
Exactly, I had been stressing on those specific aspects. But of course, after coming to the USA, that had seemed like a bit of a challenge for me because of me rolling R's too much and trying to stress on the Indian accent. a lot of my teachers in elementary school and a lot of the people who I used to communicate with, they were a bit confused about the information which I used to convey. Of course, right now they are able to understand, but at the time when I had first traveled to the USA, it was a bit difficult to make them understand a few information which I am able to convey clearly and in a more comprehensible manner, right?
So let me ask you one thing. You speak very fast.
I do. That is a common feedback which a lot of people would provide me with. That sometimes leads to me stammering here and there. Of course.
So you do end up stumbling over your words because of the speed. But tell me one thing. When you speak in your mother tongue, which is
Tamil, yeah.
Tamil. When you speak in your mother tongue, you speak as fast as you do the other languages? As fast as you speak English? Or is it slightly more controlled?
Actually, it is kind of a bit fast, but of course much slower compared to how I'd be conversing in English, because being in the USA, my grandfather, he actually has Alzheimer's and his vision is blind. Alzheimer, sorry. And his vision is blind too. His hearing is also not improving as much. The same problem is with my two grandfathers. So to make them understand the information in Tamil better, because my grandfathers, they are not that fluent in English. The major language which they are well aware of is Tamil. So when trying to communicate with them, because if I have the tendency to speak too fast,
Breathe.
Sorry. So if I have the tendency to speak in a faster paced manner in Tamil, they might not be able to understand the information, right, which I want to convey. So for that itself, purposely, I would try to slow myself down. I would be like...
But when you talk to your parents at home, do you speak to them in Tamil or English?
A combination of the two.
And is
languages.
that the same speed as if with which you're speaking now, or is it slower?
Almost the same speed.
Almost the same.
Even my parents themselves, they'd be providing me with feedback to slow down, not speak in a faster paced manner, because of course I've faced this problem on a regular basis. Whenever I'd be conversing in a faster paced manner, this results in me stumbling upon a few sentences, a few words to a greater extent. But of course, now I'm putting in more efforts, especially with your advice. I'm trying to improve a lot in...
No, and it's a mindfulness on our own part. And let me tell you one thing. So I asked you that question, if you speak your mother tongue at the same speed at home as you're speaking in English, because coming from another country, when you are talking in English 24 hours with people outside of the house, then sometimes to just convey to people that you are fluent in a language, we end up speaking fast. We think that speed is going to convey fluency.
Exactly.
Which is not the case.
Because even when traveling from India to the USA too, in India my English speed used to be a bit slower because of the speed which they'd be using, even the teachers too, because a lot of my classmates, of course, my classmates in India, they were a bit here and there with their English, because it was not as perfect as how...
Here and there.
Because it is not describable precisely about
I'm
how...
going to send this video to those classmates who are here and there.
I mean, I don't remember a lot of them, but yeah.
No, but I think that's the thing. We have to be mindful, as I was discussing with you earlier also, before we started recording, that when we speak, it's not so much about what we are saying, but it's more about what the other person is receiving.
Exactly.
Right?
Because...
So you have to make it easier for them. So when you speak at a little controlled, measured pace, so that it's easier on you. First of all, you're benefiting yourself. You're going slower, that's helping you not stumble, not fumble, not stutter. And it's definitely helping the person you're talking to, because they will now understand everything better. And they will understand it the first time you say whatever you're saying to them. Mm-hmm. So that's okay, that's about the language. Now tell me, you play the Mridangam. Have you played it in your school? Have your classmates in school heard you play your instrument?
Oh yeah, I have. In addition to playing my instrument for many concerts across New Jersey and even across Pennsylvania and a few other states in the USA, I have once played my Mridangam in school itself, because an organization in Plainsboro named Heritage Arts Academy, mm-hmm. they are an organization which teaches Hindustani music, North Indian musical instruments, and how to vocalize North Indian compositions and stuff. So when they had heard me accompanying for many concerts across New Jersey, they had contacted my father and they were asking my father if I could be accompanying sorry.
Breathe.
If I could be accompanying for something called a jugalbandi. So for those of you who do not know what a jugalbandi is, that is basically a fusion, a combination of South Indian and North Indian music combined together to create one unique masterpiece. So
it's like two performers communicating through their craft. Right, that's Jugalbandi. Jugalbandi is two performers communicating through their craft. It could be a Jugalbandi between two instruments. It could be a Jugalbandi between two singers also. Right? So that's Jugalbandi. So, but my question was, have you performed it in your school for your peers? Does the school know what instrument you play?
Yeah, of course.
Have you become a part of the band yet?
I used to be a part of the band in my previous school at Edison, but not over here because you are only allowed to pick one elective, because in my previous school you were allowed to pick 2 or 3 electives. So,
but for both, do you play your own instrument in band or do you play something else?
No, for band, of course, there is a specified set of instruments which we are required to play, such as the snare drum, bass drum, other percussion instruments, because they'd be having their own compositions, right?
So also they don't know these instruments.
Exactly, because I cannot involve my own instrument, and because my teacher has some
breathe. You're slipping through your words. But you know what? We are all a work in motion, so it's
exactly.
When you speak, there's so much energy and passion that comes out in your voice and through your words that I think your mind is racing beyond, and typically the problem is the other way around. Typically the mind is a little slower than the mouth, and we end up stuttering and blanking out. But in your case, I think your mind is running way faster than your mouth is delivering, and that's why that struggle between the mouth and the brain to give out every thought that's coming in your mind is a battle, an internal battle. Now, one more thing. I see some stuff on your forehead. Is that sandalwood?
No, actually it is something called vibhuti. It is a religious powder.
And do you apply that every day to school also?
Yep, I do, because it is a major part of my culture.
Okay, and the school understands?
No, they understand it completely, of course. I mean, they would not be bullying me. Instead, they'd be asking me questions. They'd be curious to know, what have you applied, Ajay? So,
that's fascinating.
That'll be a bit engaging and a bit content for me, because even they have the curiosity or the willingness to learn more information about other cultures to my teachers, my peers, etc.
Love it. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Ajay. And I wish we had the Mridangam today so we could have a little demonstration. But next time for sure, I think we'll continue this conversation and we will have you perform. And I'd love to publish that also on the OATS Uncut platform. So thank you for your time. I can't wait to see you perform on the big world stage and see how far you rise in life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you all for listening to this podcast. Please keep watching more videos of Vineeta ma'am, uploading her podcasting to Facebook or YouTube. Please do so.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in. Stay well, stay safe. Remember to love and to laugh and have a blast. We shall meet again.